Hello, Mike.
Hello, how
are you doing?
Good to
Nice
see
to see you.
Look at this entrance. Unbelievable.
Come on in, mate.
Cheers, thank you. Will, this is a very impressive structure. Thanks so much for having me. I do appreciate it.
Welcome in. It's a pleasure to have you along. So what you find yourself in is an environment full of skins, stones and bones. On the left here, what we have is artifacts from the Stone Age. And then as you sort of sweep along, what you find is the reconstructions, the things that I make to help people understand the Stone Age period, basically. So we have axes, adzes, we have arrowheads, we have iron pyrites, things to light the fire. We have, as we move along, we've got ancient Venuses. These are things that they were making in the Upper Paleolithic, because basically I've got three different episodes of prehistory that I use to support the ideas of what I'm up to, which is the Paleolithic, the Mesolithic and the Neolithic. And we go right the way back. If we move on down to this back wall, what you can see is you see a lot of skulls, and these aren't real. I could never have the real ones because there was only one of them. So, but what you'll notice is they're all different to each other, and these are all the different species of hominid, starting right back in Africa with Lucy, Australopithecus afarensis, and the Dakika baby, and then you've got Homo erectus, and you've got Homo habilis, and you've got the Homo georgicus and the Homo heidelbergensis. They're all there. And then we move into some of the craft, as you see, the Venus Willendorf and swimming reindeer, the crystal dagger with the mammoth ivory handle. That is actually mammoth ivory. And these are all good things to help me teach. And then on the floors, you're seeing the deer antler, you're seeing various traps like the Siberian hammer trap, you're seeing skins which are in production. That's a rawhide skin there. You're seeing skins that I use for people to sit on, and there's a whole range of different skins that I've got there. Then the clothing that I'm dressed in is all clothing that I've made myself. This is all deer skin, and I actually wear this pretty much all the time. I've learnt to make clothes in such a way that they're comfortable and they're rugged. So when I'm out in the wilderness, there's things that would normally be stinging you, puncturing you and abrading you. They're not getting through this. It gets wet. It works. It's stitched with tendon from the animals. Then we have the bows and arrows, all these types of things like this. This has an obsidian tip in it, and basically what I'm trying to do is build a complete picture so that people can understand that living in the wilderness is something you can do successfully, happily, and fundamentally you can make yourself quite happy by achieving them kind of things. So welcome in, and we've got a few plans that we can get on with today. For example, I've got us a deer which we need to skin. We're going to cook that, which will make our day kind of tasty, but we're going to need to approach some flint and make the tools so that we can actually take the skin off. When I do get the skin off, I'm going to keep that because I can go on into the tanning arena with that and make something to wear. So it all goes on.
Real to me.
That was shot on the turn of the 20th century because it was eating people.
Really?
Yeah, it had done a good proportion of the village, apparently.
Crikey, I mean, look at the teeth on those things.
Yeah. From the tip of its tail to its nose, it was about 13 foot long.
No, really?
Yeah, it's massive.
God, they are fearsome creatures, those.
So this is a hand axe, and this is the type of tool that they were using thousands of years ago when they were butchering game, a lot bigger than this deer, you know, things like mammoth. Flint stone like this should be good enough for me to get something like that out. I was quite lucky because as a child my parents became custodians of a flint mine, and it's an ancient flint mine in Thetford Forest. About 4,500 years ago they were digging down to get the best flint they could get from far, far down in the ground. It's called tabular floorstone. The reason being is it's like a great big flat sheet of flint. The problem is today we can't dig there because it's an ancient flint mine, so I have to go back to an earlier point in time to get my stone. I've literally got to go to rivers and coasts where the flint is going to exist. The flint itself is made up of, it's a Cretaceous seabed, so this can be anything up to 100 million years old. Sometimes you'll break it open and you'll find sea urchins and fossils inside. You never know. So it's a bit like opening one of the oldest storybooks there are in time. So to do that, I'm going to use a quartzite pebble, which is unlikely to break at the same time as the flint breaks, and that makes the whole journey quite safe. And as I progress into this, then I can go on to a second tool. And this one here is a piece of deer antler, and this face here is called the coronet face, the bit that was attached to the head of the deer. It takes 3 months for a deer to grow a full set of antlers, and they'll use them throughout the winter, and then they'll cast. They'll dry. These antlers will drop, and they'll be laying around in the forest. I think the first things first is we'll break this open and we'll see just how easy it is to make a tool that's not even a hand axe but would be perfectly good for approaching that deer. And there is a chance that the flint won't be any good at all because it's been shifted by an ice age a couple of times, and being shifted by an ice age is a pretty cold thing. So we're going to try and hit that just there, and we're going to break something off, and we'll see where that leads us. So the thing that's good to note about that is the flint inside is good quality. So we'll drop that and we'll turn that over. The reason I'm turning it over is because what I've got a fresh piece of flint, really nice. There's nothing there that's sort of suggesting that I can't take a tool from it, so I'm going to use that as a leader. And that's another bit. And what you'll notice now is every time I take a flake off, I'll turn the flint over, and it's this new flake scar that's going to allow me to lead on. The kind of things that go wrong is you miss, or you don't quite get a good contact on the platform. And that's going well. However, if we look in here now, we've just bumped into problems. There's cracks in here, cracks that I didn't put in there, but cracks that have always been, that the Ice Age put in there. That could actually stop me taking the tool that I'm looking for from it. And that's common with flint knapping. See how things are breaking away? But right here in our hand, what we have something that is really sharp just here. In fact, nothing gets any sharper than that. But it's a very small piece, and we might get better opportunities as we go on. Right, and that's the flint. That's me losing the chance to make that tool from that. So instead of actually trying to make a hand axe from this, what we'd do is we'd do something they did in the Stone Age anyway. We'd just make a much more simple tool. So this is the preparation, And this one should give us what we need, which is this sharp edge here. And we're going to see just how sharp that is when we cut that into that deer. But I'll be honest with you, I know that I can do this. What I'd prefer to see is if you can do it, Mark.
Yeah, that's the challenge.
So you're going to come and sit where I am,
Yeah.
and I'm going to show you where to hit it.
Okay.
And let's get you to make the tool. Right, you sit yourself down.
Oh, that's comfy.
Are you right-handed?
I'm right-handed, yeah.
Okay, so on your left leg I want you to tie this leg paddle. That's kind of like the one hazard you might get. You'll shoot sharp shards into your leg.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then in my hand I have a piece of flint that I do know a bit more about.
Yeah.
This is a really nice quality flint. And what you're going to do is you're going to knock a flake off of here, right? But prior to knocking it off, you've got to prepare to knock it off. So you're going to hold this on the left hand side of your leg like that.
Right. So you're saying there's a bevel here. If I show the camera, there's a kind of curved bit there, isn't it? It's like it's curving towards the edge.
And how that's going to benefit us is the crack that we create is going to run on that bevel.
Right.
Right. Now you know a bit about your knives, right? You know about your scanny grind, you know about your cutthroat razors and everything. Yeah. That bevel tells me one thing. It's the sharpest edge that you might ever have seen or touched in your whole life.
It's amazing.
Because of the way it's going to break.
Yeah.
So with this rock here, I want you to tilt this down a little bit and then browse around that edge.
There, so about there.
Yeah, but don't aim in, just aim down.
Straight down.
Yeah.
Quite hard?
Just go for it and see what you feel. Nice. That's good. So now can you just go round there and create like a crescent shape?
Doing the same thing.
Yeah. And knock these little shards off. You see this?
Yeah. Splinter side thing.
That little splinter is technically a microlith. You can hardly even see it.
Yeah, it's a tiny little thing.
But they would have used, hunter-gatherers would have used them. They would have actually, they could snap them like that. And then they use them as tiny little assemblages behind the point in the arrow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They were, you know...
They wasted nothing?
No, nothing needed to be wasted. Right, carry on round.
So I'm going here next?
Yeah. That's good. What I want you to do is I want you to tilt this back. And you see this new shape that you're getting?
Yeah.
Do you see how it leans at 70 degrees?
Yeah.
That's what we want. We don't want square sections.
You want it coming up, curving up.
So I want you to hit that there quite hard.
Straight down?
Yeah. Lovely. Right. So now what you've got to do is you've got to change technique slightly.
Okay.
What I want you to do is I want you, if I just cover this so you can see that shape that I'm giving you?
Yeah.
You need to construct a shape like that. But you're not going to strike with this anymore.
Right. Okay.
You're going to use. I'm going to call the word that you're looking for abrading.
Abrading.
So you're sanding that.
Okay.
Right? Just to show you, what I want you to do is I want you to sand like this.
Oh right. Okay.
And create that shape. So think of the edge of the moon. You're putting that lovely crescent in. A bit harder.
It's not going to crack on me, is it?
No. Can you feel that?
Yeah.
Abrading.
You can see it as well. Yeah. Actually, there's sort of dust almost, isn't it? It is like dust.
There's dust off the flint and there's dust off this.
Yeah.
So keep going round.
And keeping that up a bit.
Yeah, so you can actually get to it. Platforms are hard to construct when you've never done it before.
Yeah. Is that so? Am I still coming in here more?
No, you see, like you've got a tooth there.
Okay.
I need it gone. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over. We're going to really look at that. The question is do we believe that's strong enough to strike right on that very edge and cast that long flake off there? Does it look strong?
It looks strong to me.
Right. Okay. So I want that just to be just a little tiny bit stronger.
Okay.
Right. So just keep doing that a bit more. You don't need this now. What we're going to get you to use now is you're actually going to use this soft hammer.
Right, okay.
So you're going to turn this over, right, like so. You've got that there.
Yeah.
And this part of the soft hammer is going to connect with this very edge.
Yeah.
And you're going to slap it.
Right, okay.
So when you do that, whatever word you want to use, give it a spank.
Right, okay.
Right?
So quite hard.
Don't be shy about it.
Is this going to crack off a big chunk, or is this just...
It's going to be thin, long, and razor sharp. So your hand needs to come further to the back. Go all the way
really
back.
wallop it.
Keep going right back.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Now give that a good smack. Oi! That is superb. Don't let that go to the ground. Right. That is what we wanted. So you've actually created the tool.
Wow.
The perfect. Can you feel that edge?
Yeah, that's unbelievable. You could shave with that, couldn't you?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So that's the piece we need.
That's the bit we need. Yeah. What we're going to do is we're going to pressure flake this little hook away.
Okay.
Because that's going to be in our way. And what we're also going to do is we're going to blunt the back.
Right.
So this is then going to be described as a backed knife.
Okay.
Right. So we need to clean these fragments off your leg. See this? Don't throw that. That would be the perfect thing to turn into an arrowhead. And you didn't even try and make it.
I was going to say, it almost looks like an arrowhead,
right.
doesn't it?
But you need to now learn how to use this.
Right, okay.
So this is the tying off of a red deer, and you've got a little leather hand pad.
Yeah.
So if you can hold the leather hand pad in your left hand, put the flake of flint where you want to break it, which is there, and grip that. Now this, you're going to hold it quite near the tip, and the funny thing is, I'm going to ask you to do is going to feel awkward. I want you to turn your hand over, and now you're going to start putting pressure on there.
And keep going.
Yeah. See how you're using your thumb?
Yeah.
I'd prefer you didn't.
Really?
Yeah. So what I want you to do is I want you to grab it like a fist.
Okay.
You'll get that. So that's pressure flaking, right?
Yeah. And you just keep chipping away at it like that?
Yeah, just remove that little tip. Yeah, so with that technique, you're creating things like that. And you can imagine the value of that in the Neolithic period.
Yeah.
Right? So you've adjusted that back, which is good. So now we're going to turn that flake round, literally just trim the sharp edge off so it's safe to use.
This is the bit that would be our hand.
Yeah, start at one end and then just work your way up.
Okay, same technique. Just
yeah. It should go quite easily if you're right near the edge. You're literally blunting it. This is a technique that they used in the Mesolithic and the Neolithic, right through the Copper Age and into the Bronze Age. But as soon as they got to the Copper Age, they started making the tips of the pressure flaker out of copper.
Oh, right.
And that helped them put these fancy little notches in.
Because it would be stronger to take away more material?
It's stronger and it grips the edge better.
Ah, okay.
Right, so you've got the tool. We're now going to use it.
It just seems strange to think that when you think of our modern day knives, that, small piece like that is going to be able to...
And you made that knife with one hit.
Yeah.
A little bit of preparation, a little bit of cognitive intelligence.
Yeah.
That didn't just happen. You designed that. You manifested that through good wielding of thought.
It's amazing.
It's going to do its job?
I hope so. I'm struggling to comprehend that it is.
Right.
Because I've butchered a deer before, but with a knife.
Yeah.
So for me to think that that's going to do the same job, I'm still
I bet you take
ready
that home
to be.
with you.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, I bet so.
Let's try it.
So let's just extract that back strap. And the interesting thing is, you'd probably, when you see me doing that, you're probably thinking, no, you'll cut straight through it. I don't actually need to worry about it. Look, can you see? This is why we use it, is because it's so strong. Just push all that off. So we have that side. Turn that round. And you may have heard of people with sinew-backed bows. I'm talking for archery.
Sinew-backed, I have heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the backing. This is that wonderful membrane that you would glue onto the back of the bow, and that would help protect the bow from snapping when you're using it.
That's what you showed earlier, that
Yeah.
thin piece.
So all I'll do with that is I'll just hang that will stick itself to this. I'll just stick that on there like that. That'll dry out and then it's stored. But I'll clean the rest of the meat off before we actually finalise that.
Yeah. Wasting nothing though, are you really?
Not really.
Still sharp after, because it's rubbed up against bone, right? A fair amount, and it's still got that edge, even though it's been tracing the spine. It's slowly, it's not as sharp as when we first used it, but
it might have taken a bit of damage, but it can still solve. It's still perfectly serviceable. And
I'm not having to strain. What I mean is, I'm not having to really push and hack away. You can still feel it, that slicing.
Now the other thing is, right, you know what, when it's gone blunt it doesn't matter at all, because you know what you've got in your hand, don't you? You've got perfect preform for an arrowhead. So not only are you going to get to chop a deer up, then you can go out and hunt another one.
You can repurpose it.
Yeah.
And you can't really, for those that don't know, this is, I would say, the best eating part of a deer.
Yeah, I agree.
The best part, definitely.
Yeah. So
Will, you actually offer this experience to people, right, so they can come and can do this exact thing?
Yeah, that's one of the courses. We use deer on many of our courses. Sometimes I have a course called Foraging from the Carcass, which means that they're going to be using the bones, they're going to be using the brain, they're going to be using the skin, literally the lot, the whole lot. We're making cordage, we're making needles, we're making pouches, we're making pemmican, we're making you know, this is fine dining. Yeah. So they get to eat really well as well. And it sort of falls into the scope of not only being able to get more than just the meat, but actually honouring the animal. Yeah. Showing some sort of respect. I go as far to say that this helps to support mental health. Yeah. In people, because there's a reattaching.
I totally agree. Yeah.
And in the 21st century, that's one of the things we know that many people suffer from. Yeah. You've got to love a Petromax 5.
I was just going to say, I'm very familiar with this Petromax setup. Yeah, actually, you've got it set up really well in here. It fits perfectly, doesn't it?
It does, and I really love using it because it's solid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's well, mate. It's going to outlast us, that's for sure.
Yeah. That's a good sound.
That's a lovely sound, that, yeah.
There's going to be a lot of people watching this saying, I don't want to be eating this sausage, I want to be around that fire with
That's
them
it,
two.
yeah.
I want to be in Will Lord Earth Lodge right now with that pair. As you know, we're now coming to that season where we've got all the chestnuts and we've got all of the berries and we've got all the fungi. So many different things to look forward to.
It's a lovely time of year.
It'll complement the plate. This is breakfast.
Yeah. If cameras could do taste right now.
Taste and smells.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
You don't really, with a backstrap as well, you almost don't need any seasoning, do you? It's just butter, simple.
It was simple.
It was just butter, and that's it, because it's such a tasty cut of meat.
I contemplated putting garlic, but you know what?
It's lovely.
Sometimes you just want to taste things as they are.
And this is, as like we were saying earlier, as connected as you can get to nature. Having done that with a, you know, from what it was to what it is now, with just a tiny piece of flint. Yeah. That's quite amazing when you think about it. Yeah. In terms of the simplicity of it.
And you know that flint could go on to do the rest of that deer. Yeah. That one hit.
So one of the questions, I guess, Will, you might get asked by the viewers is, which I think I asked you as well. Do you live here in the Earth Lodge? Because obviously you're here a lot. I see on your posts and things. You are here a lot.
Yeah. So from running my courses here, that binds me to here for large volumes of time. So I kind of live out the far corner where I have a few items of clothes and a few things to eat. And I can find myself here for blocks of 10 days. Now I've got a lady, and we've got a house together, and we kind of see each other normally a couple of times a week. But outside that, this is my happy place. It's where I choose to be. Yeah. And we've got the winter coming, right? And when the winter comes, what we're going to have is we're going to have a lot of short days, long nights, and if I'm here just by myself, that can become a little bit lonely. Yeah. And I'll probably find that because I've got a nice choice to be with my lady, I might spend more time there. But also it's a nice opportunity. The winter is a good opportunity for me to get into new projects. So and one of many they may be. So for example, that skin that we've just started taking off, that's going to require quite a bit of time that I don't have now.
Because you're busy with your courses.
So I'll freeze that, and that will go on to be used another day, either by a client or by myself. Prior to having this, I actually lived in my garden.
Oh, really?
So I've been living outside for 5 years.
Yeah. Wow.
I didn't like being in my house. Do you know when you put if a bird flies into your house, what's it want to do?
Get back out.
Get back out.
Yeah.
When I go in, guess what I want to do?
You want to get back outside. Yeah, that says something about you as a character as well, as a person. You know that this isn't just for show for you. No. This is a way of life. Like, you do genuinely feel more connected doing this than the sort of modern day things as such.
Being connected into the land is something that I think becomes an addiction. Once you've had it, it's a really hard thing not to choose into your everyday existence.
What made you kind of choose this particular site? When I pulled up and I started walking down, it was almost like a natural clearing kind of anyway. What was sort of here before? Was there a lot of work involved in trying to?
Well, basically the whole place was a bramble patch. Right. It's an old disused quarry. Okay. So 70 years ago they were taking aggregates out of here.
Oh, right.
But more so than that, where you actually are, you're in a place called Breckland. And Breckland is home to some combination of rare species of insects and birds, like the stone curlew, that sort of thing. Okay. Yeah. Just to boost on top of what we're sitting in right now, out the back I have about 30 acres of prime wilderness.
That's amazing.
We've got 4 species of deer out there.
Really?
I have red, fallow, roe and muntjac running through that woods.
It's amazing, isn't
badger and fox, and and that's really great.
I mean, there's a lot of history to this area. So we're Norfolk based. There's a lot of history in general to this side of England. For those that don't know, this probably holds most of the history in terms of humans. Yeah. This would be the kind of capital of history of humans, Norfolk, isn't it, really?
This is, what I'm about to say now is quite mind-blowing. At the top of my hill, as the land goes down, what you'd be standing on, if you go down into the bottom of it, is something called an ancient Bython riverbed. Right. So, 550,000 years ago, there was a river going through. And the British Museum come here twice a year to dig on there, and they're finding all the fossil evidence of mammoth, rhino, hippo, and then they're finding hand axes. They found saber-toothed tiger.
No, really, just over the hill.
Just over the hill, you've got an old river system.
That's amazing.
And obviously, probably the richest survival tactic there's ever been is a source of water. Yeah. And
that's incredible, isn't it?
There you go.
That is
just there.
Proper history there. It was almost like it was meant to be, having your sort of earth lodge here.
I didn't have anywhere to run my courses, And it seemed like, do you know how you do something that you don't think you're ever going to be get permission to?
Yeah.
I knocked on the Duke of Grafton's door, introduced myself, and just asked.
Yeah.
I said, is there any chance that you may be interested in giving a guy like me a place to run my affairs? And he said, yeah, come in, sit down, have a cup of tea, let's talk.
That is... You do not find many people like that these days. That is.
So he's become a very important man in my life.
Yeah, yeah. That was some lovely food there, Will. Kettle's on.
Yeah,
the sun is out.
Yeah, we're talking about being out. We're currently in.
Yeah.
Got a good idea.
What's that?
Have you ever shot a proper U-bow?
Never. No.
Really? Well, this is my new U-bow.
Wow.
And I reckon that since we've eaten deer, I'd like to find out if you stand a chance of actually hunting a deer. Do you want to try it out?
I'd love to. Look at this.
Yeah.
I'd absolutely love to. I'm sure my viewers would love that as well.
Yeah.
So you made this yourself, this one?
Yeah. And in my life, I can tell you, I've had just less than a handful of staves that have come from English yew that have been just right for the perfect bow. Because it just doesn't grow like that these days, you know.
I can imagine, yeah.
Right, let's get it on.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Have you shot a bow before?
I've only the small kind of plastic type bows. I've never shot with a wooden bow before.
Okay, well,
so
you'll be fine.
This will be new.
I love this bit of forest. This is just
beautiful, isn't it? I see another shelter, Will.
Yeah, this is my open air shelter. So the whole idea is you can have a night sleeping in the forest with you can be under the eaves so it's dry. You've got the fire to go to sleep by, and then you've got the actual beautiful forest to wake up to. So, we've got a brand new target face over here, and you are putting the first arrow into it. So guess where I want it? I want it in the gold.
Yeah. Right, Will, what's
so here what you have is you have an English yew longbow. Right, so it's one piece of wood. It looks like there's two. So what you've got is you've got the sapwood and the heartwood. And the reason these were so special is because the sapwood, it stretches well, and the heartwood compresses well. So with all the tests and studies they've done, this particular type of wood returns to its shape that it's sitting in now faster than any other woods.
And that's why yew was used as the best
That's
wood.
why it was used, yeah.
I never knew that.
So we're going to give you an arrow, right? And we're going to see you load that up.
Wow, that's God, it does, doesn't it? So what would be the draw for the archery nerds out there? What would be the pound? Like what? You're
pulling that at about £60. Agincourt archer would be about 130.
What? And if I go as hard as I can, that's about theirs.
Yeah.
And they're doing what, double that?
Yeah.
Nearly double.
Yeah.
That's insane, isn't it?
Easily double.
They were built differently, those men, that's for sure.
It rearranged their skeletal structure.
It'll be back muscles and stuff, wouldn't it? They'd be really strong.
Yeah, they can tell because the skeletons are
really
deformed from doing this all their lives.
Wow.
Right, so good luck.
Right, let's try it. Oh,
you're on the target.
I hit the target, but I didn't hit the gold.
Now you know what you're in for.
Yeah.
You can find your way to the middle.
That's better.
You're getting better. Third one's in the gold.
No pressure. Didn't imagine doing this whilst under fire from other archers.
Have you ever heard of the toxophilia of archery?
No.
It's the way of the archer. It's feel a shot.
Okay.
See the gold.
Yeah.
Point at it. You'll never miss when you point at something.
Okay.
No pressure, right?
Yeah.
Oh!
Oh!
You got the height right?
Yeah. 2-3 inches to the left of the red, the previous one. I'm pulling left slightly, looking at all of those.
Yeah.
Yes!
Way! Nice!
In the gold.
Yeah, indeed.
That is really satisfying.
Yeah. So what you've got is you've got the sapwood, which is really good for stretching.
So that's the outside, for people that don't know, that's more of the closer to the bark of the tree.
Yeah, that's known as the back of the bow, where the bark would be. And then you have the heartwood, which is known as the belly, so it has a back and a belly. So this is a dacron string. Really, I should have a flax string on there, but this is going to last me longer. And then the same as my clothes are made out of, this is buckskin that's been made out of deer skin, and it's stitched with the sinew. So a nice little bow, a bow that actually belongs in the forest.
Right, you're up, Will, it's your turn.
Is it my turn?
It's your turn.
Well,
Whew.
not in the gold.
Some power though.
The power.
Yeah.
Cool.
Look at that. We're not faking it here. He genuinely has.
So this is not a Stone Age arrow. The thing about Stone Age arrow is when we're shooting an arrow with pine pitch glues, you will actually pull the tip off when you pull it out the target. So this is made for field shooting, having a little bit of fun. And we have an ash shaft, we have bodkin head, we have left wing turkey feathers which are bound on so that it keeps them nice and secure, and a little plastic head. You can buy all these components, but one of the things I've done when I've bought this is I've bought a spine tested shaft, and what that means is you hang it between 26 inches apart, put a 2-pound weight on it, and that will bend a little bit, because the back of the bow is going to make this arrow bend, and we want every arrow to bend pretty much the same, and we call that the archer's paradox, so that it weaves over the central line as it takes its flight path. You're going to wreck arrows. So that's one of the things. Your bow might last you for an age, but you're going to lose arrows, you're going to break arrows. So you can just go to a regular archery shop, you can buy all them components, and they're a great thing to stick together while you're watching the telly or something like that.
Well, Will, thank you very much for that short insight into archery. I was just speaking to Will actually, saying that maybe down the line I'll come back and do a video if you guys are interested on bow making, because you make your own bows.
I'll teach you how to make a bow.
I think that would be really good.
Definitely.
I think you guys would really appreciate that. I'm really intrigued about the shelters that you build. It's almost like, for my sort of what I do as well on my channel a lot is shelters, but you know, each time we come into the woods there's like a new shelter there.
Yeah.
It's progressing into this kind of village.
I have 30 acres of wilderness out there.
Yeah.
Be great to take you in. I'm right in the thick of it. I've got the first one I built, and it's a bit like going into Jurassic Park, to a place where no one's been for years and years and years.
We've got to do that, haven't we?
You want to see that?
Yeah, of course I do. Let's do it.
Right.
I'm seeing flint everywhere, Will. Everywhere we go, there's so much flint.
It's an old gravel quarry, and gravel's got flint in.
Yeah.
It's amazing to be here. A little bit to eat on the way. You've got all your nettle, flowers. They're really good at this time of year because they're nutty and they're crunchy and they're good for you. You can see over there what you've got is you've got all the banking of goose grass, which is fantastic for lighting fires. But the nice thing about this, because it's off the ground, right? Because it's off the ground, it is always nice and dry. Or 90% it's nice and dry. And look, you've got the absolute perfect tinder bundle, and you can tell what it is because it's got these little seed heads on it. But storing that is a great idea. I always love coming up over the bank, because what you've got is you've got the perfect opportunity, because the wind down there is you have to check what's happening with the wind, but as you come up you're moving into a new layer of landscape, so I've always got my eyes really peeled to see if there's something exciting to see as I come over the edge of that hill. You'll all know about silver birch, but basically there's lots of different styles of bracket fungus, amadou and chaga that we can glean from this. The very bark itself is the best. You can tap it. It's just a fantastic tree, and you see them in lots of different stages. Right here we have a big burr which is growing on that, but a huge friend to somebody who's into survival, but that alone is a big subject all by itself, so we'll leave that one right there for now. So while we're walking through the forest, obviously we're moving all the nettle to one side. Incidentally, when you look at that nettle as opposed to that nettle, that's a female and that's a male. As you can tell, the abundance of the flower head right there. But just stepping back to this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sacrifice this nettle and just show you. We'll pull that up, we'll clean that off, and then what we'll do is we'll break in. Do you see the water pour out there? So if you're thirsty, there's a drink. That's a drink I'd trust. Back there what we had is we had like a stool of water in the crevice of a tree, and what you've got is you've got lots of tannins in there and reasons that you wouldn't want to drink it. But we'll split that open. Now we're going to snap that like that. We're going to pull that down there like that, and then we're going to take that. You can tell at this time of year they're getting tight on the node heads, so you go over the node heads gently. And what we've managed to obtain from that is all this, and then what we can do is we can separate these fibres off from each other. So what we've got is we've got 4 or 5, and it depends on how thick you want your cordage, but just for now how we'll cover this off is we'll talk about this. And what I'm doing there is I'm rolling it, but then what we're going to do is we're going to start, see what's happening there? It's locking itself in together, so using a thigh roll, and instantly we're making nice cordage. Then you'd need more nettle just to lay in. You can also lift it up off of the thigh. You can start doing this mechanically by hand, but that's a friend. If you're living out here, which I am quite a lot, you need all the friends you can get, so you recognise them, you know, they become part of your journey. If you're ready, I'll introduce you to another one of my little friends. So grass to ancient people was a toolkit, and this one is called soft rush. So we'll pull that up, and what you've got is you've got a round stem. And if we split into that round stem with my thumbnail like that, then what we should be able to do is you should be able to come in here and get what's in the middle, and in a minute, there you go, you got that. So going back to that deer, we can collect the fat, we can render it down, and then we can pop that into the rendered fat, light it, and we have the perfect candle wick. Not only that, if we gather that like that, tie it off on the bottom and start bending all these over, what we're ending up there with is a grass tube, and we can put the meat into that isn't cooked, and that's going to keep the flies off. As we come through here, what you're seeing is you're seeing lots of damage on the bark, And this is red deer chewing on this. They're getting a lot of medicinal properties out of the willow bark. Some is fresher than others, it's quite old. This is elder. Always love this tree, it looks dead, but it's not. And what you have here is you have jelly-eared fungus, just like an earol, in fact. Look at this. You've got choices. We can dehydrate it, rehydrate it in brandy, dunk it in chocolate, and you have them, or you can fry them, or eat them as they are. This is what we come for.
That's so well hidden, look at that.
And then you come to just check in to see if anything else is in here.
Wow.
That's a good place to spend the night, wouldn't you say?
Proper cot, that. This is amazing. So you've lime washed the walls?
Yeah.
Or is it? Yeah. Keep saying about this general area, the woodland is just so quiet.
There's a couple of burial mounds behind us.
Oh, is there?
And the place has got a feeling.
Yeah.
My mate Scott said to me, he said, I don't know whether you brought it here, Mr. Lord, or whether it was here before you started. He said, but there's a feeling in here.
Mm.
And he ain't wrong. I just wanted to show you this. I know you know all about big old trees, but this one's unusual because it's a big old silver birch, and I've never seen one do this before.
That is really impressive. I've never seen a birch like that, silver birch.
Look at it, it goes on and on.
Oh, it's massive. It's so gnarly, like an oak, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. It's still growing.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to cast another flake off of here, which is a bit thicker than your knife, and I'm visualising I'm going to get it from here. And the reason I'm thinking here rather than here or over here is because when you look at this, it's raised up and then it drops down either side. So if we make a platform at the back here, which is what you did to take that flake off, then we can cast a nice flake out, and it has an exit strategy because the material falls away, and that's what allows me to take a really nice flake out of there. So the platform is really, really important, because if the platform's not right, then you can't expect anything to happen right. So we're just moving material out of the way from there. And when you get to the age of 50, you realise your eyes start failing you, and you really need to see a bit better. And so we're manufacturing a shape that I really like the look of, and I'm going to hit that right there. So we have a nice full flake, and the type of arrowhead I'm going to produce for you is going to be a style that was made in the Bronze Age called barbed and tanged. Bring it back across, and then we're going to invade the back with these notches like so. This is not only a decent arrowhead, but it's nostalgic. So we're going to use a copper tipped flaker, which is what they would have used back then. It's going to help to speed things up, and not only is it going to help speed things up, it can force its way through a little bit easier than the antler. Sometimes you get bits fly off. That doesn't mean the game is over, it just means it's changing things slightly. And what I'm doing here is I'm putting a platform in, and I've said a couple of things that are left unexplained at the moment, like I used the word nostalgia, and it's what happens next. We're making that platform strong. It's what happens next that's going to add the nostalgia, because we're going to turn this over and we're going to push flakes out across the surface, and it's going to give it a look. And the reason I'm saying that is because when I was just literally 5 years old, I saw my first properly produced arrowhead that my dad had made, which is like 47 years ago now, and it had all these beautiful flake scars on, and it really does look something, and it captures our attention, and it kind of, you can't look at it and not know what it is. And even way back in the Bronze Age, when they were making arrowheads, they didn't just shoot these things into animals or people or whatever it was that they were shooting, but they also quite often put really nicely presented and well performed arrowheads into important burials. So people like the Amesbury archer had 17 barbed and tanged arrowheads in his burial chamber, along with copper items, gold items, flint, pottery, and it was important. So it's a new platform. Now to get on the opposite side. The interesting thing is you could change things, but the way I would, if I change it in the wrong direction, I'm going to let myself down. So if I go like that, see the way the shape is now pointing that way instead of that way? Well, if I try and use that, I can't get the right angle. So if we watch, the side of the tool touches this instead of the tip, and that means I can get hold of that much easier. If I start holding this like this, my fingers have got to have a lot of power, and they haven't got it. So when I've got it here, all of the energy is going into the palm of the hand, and technically I'm stronger, so I can push these long powerful flakes off. So that's all part of the technique that's essential to being able to present and produce an amazing looking arrowhead. You're not only really looking at a flint arrowhead, what you're looking at is you're looking at a form of currency that applied to the Bronze Age period, because they didn't just get copper and tin and make bronze and that was the end of the Stone Age. Bronze was a luxury because it took so much effort to get rid of that, let that flick away, we don't need that. It took so much effort to extract malachite and cassiterite, because they're the ores that you would smelt and turn into your bronze. So you had the Beaker period, you had the end of the Neolithic period where they were grinding flint axes. And when they were grinding flint axes, what they were doing is they were reducing the particles of sand down to a dust. That dust they then put into the clay, which was then described as like a grog and a temper, and that meant that the moulds that they were pouring bronze into had something called thermal elasticity, and what that actually means is that you can put things in and out of a fire without them exploding and without them shrinking too much when they were learning new technologies. So at the moment I've got this to a position where it's pointed and it would work as an arrowhead, but the scarring on the surface hasn't really come up to a standard that's high enough to claim my high status in an ever-growing community.
How come you use the stone again after you've just done some flake? Like, to me, it's like you've made a sharp edge and then you're...
Okay.
So what's that reason for them making it?
If I hadn't have done that abrading, then what we have is we have all of these vulnerable little glassy, fragile edges. So when you put the copper tip pressure flaker against it, instead of allowing me to build any pressure up, it will collapse before I've got any force behind it.
And would you lose more material then? Or?
It would mean that I can't generate a long flake because the edge is fragile and it will collapse.
Oh, I see.
So when we abrade, what we're doing is we're adding some strength into the edge so then flakes can get pushed out and pushed off. But even with this, we're running into a couple of problems because we have a little bit of hinging, which is where the flake has terminated abruptly in the middle, and sometimes you have to put up with that, and on occasions, if you've got your skill set up, what we can do is we can clear that from the opposite side. So over here what we've had is we had a couple of flakes that completely went right over the other side, then dived down rapidly and plunged and ripped some of the opposite side out, and they're just part of the problem set that a flint knapper will experience when he's making high end, I quite often term it as top shelf stuff, meaning we can make crude tools, but then what we can actually do is we can advance our game and we can make really, really, really nice tools. And you can imagine to a community that has already got plenty stacked against them, such as being able to survive in the wild, if you've got somebody that can make advanced and efficient, let's call them tools or weapons, that's a huge game changer to your clan and your tribe. And even so much as there's a lot of people, yourself included, you come from a side of the country where you're not looking at flint every day because you haven't the geology of your landscape doesn't carry flint.
Yeah.
So if you migrate across the country, which they did, to meet a clan of guys that are good with the stone, then you could actually go across there and trade with them. That's quite nice flake work across that surface now. So what we're going to do is we're going to sort the back out, and you'll notice that I can clear that quite quickly just by dropping in quite deep. Now comes the tricky bit, because what you can see is we've put quite a bit of time and effort into getting this to the shape it is now. And now what we've got to do is we've got to do the risky bit, and it's always risky. The reason I say it's risky is because there's a very good chance that we'll ruin it. What we want to do is I need a flat one that's hammered flat now, and I'm going to bite into the back. Sounds like we've got a...
What's that? A bird?
We've either got a bird on the roof or something living in the corner.
It's like something knocking on the door, isn't it?
When you're living in nature, you have to recognise that nature's going to be about. The problem that I've had in the past is I found myself living with rats, and I don't do living with rats.
No.
They ruin things. You know, once a rat starts peeing on your bedding and getting into stuff, you've got problems. So if I discover I've got any evidence of rats, then I'm sorting them out. You see here what we're doing is we're doing this what we call invasive notching, and there are times that you'll get to a point and you'll get locked out. So that's the bottom of the notch. So what we have there is we have a Bronze Age style napped flint arrowhead, and that's for you to take away with you.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you made that look so easy, Will. It's ridiculous. That's incredible. Look at that. That's like an iconic shape, isn't it? That.
It really is, isn't it?
So, if you were securing this to an arrow shaft, kind of primitively, what would you do?
Well,
you were going to.
Let's just have a look at this one, for example. This is bound on here with pine resin, which you know about. I've seen you doing a video on that. I mixed a little bit of beeswax and charcoal into this, which has given it a slightly more robustness. And then the other thing that I've got is I've got the fibre from a stinging nettle just wrapped around there, not made into cordage, but you can see why people like obsidian, right? Look at the beautiful shades of purple going on there. And that's crafted into there. It's a little bit wobbly because things become detached after they get knocked about a bit. But I've only got to offer that into the fire for a minute and let that glue melt again, and that will rebind it into the tip.
And you were saying, like, the issue with obviously practicing with these arrows is that as soon as they go into the target and stuff, they're much more delicate in terms of reuse.
You have to accept, if you're going to shoot that, anything it hits is probably going to obliterate that.
Yeah.
But if it gets it to the target, then it's going to do its job.
Yeah.
And to be fair, a bow and arrow is one of the last things you really want to go hunting with. You really want to set traps up over your land and then move out, and let the traps activate for you while you're not there.
Yeah. Will, thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
I've really, really enjoyed that. I hope you guys have enjoyed that too. That's basically a snippet into the things that you do here. Where can my followers come find you, and you know, what platforms and?
Okay, yeah, well, like I've got a growing YouTube channel, and it's called Will Lord Prehistoric Survival.
Okay.
And I operate there quite a lot, so I'm active there. But I'm also featuring on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
I will put all the links to Will's social media channels down below. Definitely, I highly recommend, go over to his channel, especially the YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. Will has got some really, really good content on there that I think you guys will enjoy.
Should they want to come on a website, then we lead you to my website, which is the 3 W's, a Will, funny little hyphen, Lord, Lord, .co.uk, and you can find the courses that I'm running just there. So
you guys can essentially live out the experience that I've just had and filmed for you, but in probably a lot more detail with a lot more things with it. So I honestly could highly recommend coming here.
You can't fail to have fun with ancient technology, can you?
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. You just get lost in it. We've been here for hours just walking around the woods and taking it all in. It's been a really enjoyable experience, and hopefully next time maybe we can look at bow making or something like that.
I've got to have you back.
Oh, I'd love to be back. I'd love to be back.
And now I know what you can draw. That helps me, because I know what sort of stave
a little bait, a small one probably. Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
That'll be fun.
Okay.
Teach them how to make a longbow.
Right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it. As I said, links are in the description below, and we will see you in the next episode.
Cheers, guys.